Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 10,000 Ideas competition hosted by Sabaragamuwa Startup Hub. So in this part of the sessions, we are going to look at, we are having a couple of sessions to support your ideas in the 10,000 Ideas competition. The first session we are having is the how to pitch session. So it will support you, everyone to your ideas to present to investors, your customers, like your audience, like what are the things that you need to get right, what are the things that you don't need to do, like that. You'll get a lot of expert advice from this session. It's help you to for your startups to flourish and going through the competition and get a really good understanding how to pitch and how to present your idea, your product to investors, customers, likewise. So joining the session today is Mafaz. He's supporting us for the competition and for this session. He accepted our invitation and he's helping us, our startups, to support with how to pitch session from his knowledge and his experience. He's co-founder of Show and Tell, and he's years of experience of pitching and on terms of presentation. He will of course give more introduction about himself as well. So over to you, Mafaz. We'll start the session.
Sure, thank you so much. So good evening, good morning, everyone. Nice to see so many. Nice to be a part of this initiative and to be contributing to help Sri Lankan startups come up with ideas and to be able to help those ideas grow and become successes in the future, right? So today's session is a very exciting one and one that I particularly enjoy to deliver, because startup pitching is a very unique experience, right? Not only because you get to go and speak about your startup, it's not only because you go and get to convince investors to buy into your idea, but more importantly, it gives you this opportunity to really think about your business, not on a day-to-day basis, but on where is this business going? Where am I? What am I trying to create? Right? And that's really, really important, because only when you know what your vision is, what your direction is, are you going to be able to make that into something real, right? So this, for me, an investment pitch deck is as much about what we want an investor to see, but also about what we see for our own startup, right? So today we're going to learn how to make a kick-ass presentation, which will be able to win the hearts and, more importantly, the wallets of our investors. Right, so let's dive in, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end. So if you have any questions, just write them down, keep them ready, or you can just put them in the chat, and then we'll handle them during the Q&A session. Right. Of course, if anything is not clear, if you want anything further explained, please let me know. You can stop me at any time, and I'm happy to explain things a little bit more if there is something that you want me to go into a little bit more detail. Cool. Right, so let me quickly give an introduction about myself. So I started my own startup about 7 years ago as a co-founder, and Show and Tell is basically a presentation agency, right? So we specialize in creating presentations, and investment pitch decks have become a really big part of what we do. So I'm proud to say that myself and my team, we've had the privilege of working on startup pitch decks for investment pitch decks for about 30 plus pitches for Sri Lankan companies as well as international companies. Now, what I am sharing with you today is things that I have learned having worked on all these presentations, right? And things that we have seen work and things that we have seen not working, right? So hopefully this will help you to understand what is the best things to put into your pitch deck, right? At our last count, when we looked at how much our clients have been trying to raise using the presentations that we have created, it is upwards of $16 billion rupees, right? So a lot of our clients have successfully raised funding as well. While I would not say our presentation is the only factor, the ideas are good as well. But at the end of the day, if you can have the best idea, but if you're not able to put that idea in a way that a customer or investor is able to understand and appreciate, it is always going to be a challenge, right? So this is what I'm going to share with you today. This is this knowledge and experience that I have gained over the last 7 years, right? So let's start by understanding what exactly is a pitch and a pitch deck, right? Now, these are two words that you will hear over and over again whenever you are talking about fundraising, whenever you're talking about going to investors, you're going to hear these two words. Now, there is a difference between the two, right? A pitch is basically any time that you get to go in front of an investor or any kind of funding agency and convince them to back you, right? So this can happen at a coffee shop, it can happen at a wedding, at a dinner, it can happen anywhere, right? So you as a startup founder have to be able to deliver your pitch with or without a presentation in any situation, right? That is an absolute must. A pitch deck is your actual slides. So this is a tool that you're going to have ready, which is going to help you make sure that when you're talking to somebody, that you're telling the right thing and that you're not talking about unnecessary things, right? So you want to make sure that when you're pitching, you're talking about only the necessary and most important things, right? So this is a distinction, right? So pitch deck, the pitch is the actual convincing. The pitch deck is a tool, right? And when you have a good pitch deck, what happens is your pitch becomes better. Now, before you jump into developing a pitch deck, right, before you start opening PowerPoint and putting all your slides together, you need to understand who is your audience, right? And what are they looking for when they listen to your pitch deck? And so those are the three things, and that is the first thing I'm going to cover in today's presentation, right? We're going to talk about what is it an investor is going to be looking for in your presentation. And then we're looking at what do we put into the presentation to answer those questions that they have. And finally, I'm going to give you a few tips on how to get ready for your actual presentation. That means when you go in front of somebody to stand and deliver your pitch, what do you need to do, right? So these are the three areas of today's presentation. So let's dive into the investor mindset. Now, sometimes what happens is we think, we have a cool idea, we have put, AI and chatbot and Bitcoin and, blockchain. We have all this cool technology, and because it's cool, an investor is just going to be ready. Every investor is going to give us money. Now, unfortunately, that's not the case. I'm sure we all wish it was, but unfortunately, it is not the case. Right? An investor is always going to be very mindful about where they put their money. So when you're pitching to an investor, what we want to make sure that they understand is that we need to make sure that they understand our story, right? So fundraising is all about storytelling. It's about telling and making an investor believe in what your business stands for and what you want that business to become in the future. So the better the story, the more likely, the more excited an investor is going to be part of that story. So this is the first thing we have. It's about creating an emotional connection with the investor. That is a must, right? And that is the hardest part and the most important part. Now, when you start developing also, how do we get this across? Now, first thing we need to understand is when you're creating a presentation, when you're creating a pitch, you have to show an investor that you are solving a problem or you're trying to take advantage of an opportunity. many of us as startup founders, especially technology startups, what happens to us is we fall in love with our solution. We fall in love with the tech, right? We can talk about the tech, how the architecture is built, the load it can handle, the way it's all the integrations it has, which is great. But more important is it solving a real problem and a problem that needs to be solved? And there are people who are willing to pay to have this solved, right? Now, keep on evolving, or to keep on coming up with new ideas, to keep on, having new product innovations. And if you're only doing it because the tech is cool, the minute the tech goes out of date or the tech becomes, widely available, the coolness factor goes away. And when the coolness factor goes away, your motivation goes away also, right? So as an investor, an investor is always looking for, will this guy or will this girl survive the business, right? Will the business survive beyond them just building their tech? And when you love your problem, no matter how, you might find some way to solve it. And that is what we want to do with an investor pitch. We want to show them that we love our problem. Whether they're using a high-tech solution or a low-tech solution, doesn't matter. We want to be able to solve this problem for our audience, right? So the minute an investor sees, okay, this guy is really, really passionate about their problem, they're like, okay, you know what, this is going to be exciting, right? And they know that your business is going to keep on developing, keep on coming up with new ideas, new ways to solve the problem. So your business, whatever said and done, your business will survive, right? So this is the first thing. We need to make sure that we, number one, love the problem, and number two, that we know how to show that love to a third party. Now, many of us think, okay, just because we have a solution, we have a problem, we have a solution, investors will come and give us money. No, right? Investors, even though they might be very much more wealthier than us, that doesn't mean that they're just going to keep on throwing money at you, right? A smart investor will look at investments, will put money down in companies where they think, this business is growing, and if I give them money, they're going to grow faster, right? Or this business is going to grow, and I want to be a part of that growth, right? So this is one place that investor will look at. Does your business have growth potential, right? Second thing is they're going to also want to be a part of businesses where they can bring something to the table, right? Their experience, their knowledge, they want that insight, their business insight to help the business grow, right? Now, mind you, there are investors who are willing to just give you money, no questions asked, only requirement, in 1.5 years, 2 years, 3 years, you need to give me back X amount back, right? You have that kind of investor, right? So as a startup, when you're growing your business, it's always good to go after smart investors, right? And these are investors who will bring something to the table, whether it is connections, whether it is business experience, whether it is advice, right? Whether it is bringing in processes and protocols on how to run your business. Go after those investors, because those are the guys who are going to make your business grow enough to be able to go after dumb money, right? Once you have the good business practices, then go after dumb money. That's okay, right? But initially, you want to go after smart investors. So investors are going to look for businesses where they can actually bring something to the table, and then both you as a founder and your investor are going to grow the business together. Now, finally, and most importantly, investors are looking for investment opportunities where they are going to make money, right? So very, we all love, these are investors, angel investors. They are the type who will not ask any questions. They just want us to be successful. They want us to be they want to help us grow. They are, good people, which might all be true, right? But at the end of the day, this is their hard-earned money. So they want that money to go into something where they're going to someday get very good returns, right? So here's something I would like to just point out. Like, so for example, think that there's one investor who has, say, 20 million rupees, and he has to decide between company A and company B. Now, company A has all this amazing tech, right? There are, blockchain and AI, and the next generation of tech is in their business. The second company, company B, is a very basic e-commerce website. Now, company A probably needs about another 5 years before they can go to market, while company B is already in the market. It's already making money. Now, from an investor's point of view, they will see company B as a higher potential than company A. Why? Because company B will give them their money back sooner, right? And that is what they're looking. So that will be one of the factors that they're going to want to evaluate. And you need to show that, okay, it's not, we are going to use your money, we are going to do all of these things. It's great. But you have to also show, we're going to use your money, we're going to do all these things, and we are going to make money. And we are going to make, we are going to be cash flow positive, or we're going to be profitable. Something you have to demonstrate that, right? Because otherwise, as an investor, it is a big risk. Will these guys ever make money? Will I ever get my money back, right? And if your business is not making money, I can't even sell your shares, right? So all of these things are in the back of their mind, right? So you have to be able to make this, you have to make this case. In your presentation, you have to be able to keep this in mind. How do I show we are going to make this money while developing something amazing, right? So this is what investors are going to want to see, right? Now, as your business grows, the content of your presentation is also going to change, right? Now, when you're starting up, when you're beginning at a very early stage, you might not have a lot of information to show. You might just have a problem. You might have an idea for a solution. You might have an MVP. Those are things that investors want to see. That's okay. But as you grow, as you start earning revenue, as you start getting onboarding customers, as you start getting people using your product, you're going to go into the growth and accelerate stage. At this point, investors want to see, are customers using your product? Are they staying with your product? Is your onboarding? Are you onboarding new customers on a regular basis? Right? The requirement or the content is going to evolve. Right? So today we are going to mainly focus on like early stage content, right? What do we put into a startup that is at an early stage? But as you grow, you want to make sure that you're proving that your business is growing, right? And that you are successful in attracting and holding on to customers. Now, in the previous slide, I hope you noticed at both early stage as well as the business grows, one of the things that really counts is your team. And I know there are plenty of investors who will walk away from good investment opportunities only because they feel the team is not the right fit, right? So as an investor, they want to work with you, right? But if they feel, the person I'm going to be working with, the founder or the co-founder or the founding team, we don't have the same values, or we don't have the same principles, or we don't have the same vision for the business, that is going to create friction, right? Everyone is like always fighting and, always arguing with each other. Then that's not fun, right? So as an investor, what you're looking for is they want to see, what is this team? Do they have a passion, right? Are they going to continue developing their product? Are they going to find, if they come across an issue, will they somehow continue to find a way around it? Right? Or are they going to say, I'm done, we are giving up, and we are going to go and take full-time jobs somewhere, right? They are going to look for, when I give them advice, are they going to listen to it? Are they going to discuss this with me, right? Are they open to that? Because there are some investors, some founders, when you tell them everything is a fight, my way is the only way, I don't listen to anybody else. Again, very difficult to work with those people, right? So investors are going to look, is the team coachable? Right? Do you all have domain knowledge? Now, domain knowledge you might not have experience in the domain, right? But you need to have domain knowledge. You need to have either read articles, watched, read case studies. You need to have an in-depth domain knowledge, because otherwise you're going to be taking their money and going into the dark and going to make a lot of mistakes at the cost of their money, right? Then fourthly, they're going to want to see what are the skills that your team has. And most importantly, and this I think is one of the things that shows the maturity of a good startup, is what are the skills you don't have? Do you know what those are, right? A good example is a startup that recently raised some funding called Niftron. And Niftron basically is a group of engineers who have built this amazing product. And one of the reasons, from what I've heard, one of the strong points in their pitch was they knew that as a startup, they had the technical experience, but they didn't have the marketing and business development experience. And they knew that we had to bring somebody on board to fill that gap. So that was really powerful. And that was something that investors saw, what, these guys know what they're good at and they know what they're bad at. And they have a plan on how to fix what's bad. Right? So these are variables that as a founder, you need to demonstrate during your pitch, during your discussions. You have to be able to maintain that. So you need to develop these values and these traits or these skills in yourselves as you go into the market, as you start talking to investors. Now, the final thing I want to just tell you is, as startups, we sometimes get a little excited. Okay, we are going after, we are getting funding, we are going to get X amount of money, we are giving up this amount of percentage of equity, we are at this amount valuation, right? 500 million, 1 billion, whatever, right? We get very excited by those numbers. But at the end of the day, those numbers are fictional, right? They are just a representation or an assumption about your business value. As a startup, don't ever plan, I'm going to start this business with 2 people, they're going to get some funding, we'll make it a 10% company. After that, they'll get some more funding, we'll become a 20% company, some more funding, we'll become a 50% company. Then what is happening is your entire business is built on fundraising, right? You're going to constantly be going after investors, Series A, Series B, Series C, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the day, it's an impossible business model to maintain, because eventually people want to see profit. They want to see cash flow positiveness, right? So you have to, and the best way to win the confidence of your investor is to show them that you have paying customers. So build your business to start earning money as quickly as possible, even if it's like tiny amounts. Because the minute somebody is paying you, that means there is a problem that people are willing to pay for a solution, right? And that is going to give you a lot of leverage, a lot of negotiation power when you come to the table with an investor, right? So never build your business focused on fundraising and continuous winning competitions and prize money and all this. Build your business on getting paid customers, right? And these are the things I would say you need to keep in your mind as a founder. When you're developing your presentation, build something that an investor is excited to be a part of, right? It's a give and take, right? So this is the first thing you need to keep in mind. This is what I have to make sure my investors understand this when I'm developing my presentation. And with that in mind, you can then start actually creating your presentation. Now, what do we put into our pitch presentation? I'm sure you go online, you go and check any website, there are plenty of websites that have Ubers and Airbnb, they have pitch decks, all of those are available. But that doesn't mean you can take a copy and put everything in your one as well, right? So what we're going to put into our presentation matters, right? Because that's where you build the focus and the clarity about your business. Now, the first thing I want to say is, when you create your pitch deck, it's basically a story, right? Here is how my business started, and here is where it is going to go. I want you to get excited. I want you to be a part of that journey, right? This is what we want an investor to realize. And how do we put that across? Is by talking about a few key areas, right? So what I have here on slides here are 10 of the most common things that you would see in a pitch deck, right? You can add to this based on your startup, but generally, I would say minimum try to include these things because these are the big questions that an investor would want to address when they listen to your pitch. So let's go through each of these one by one, right? And I'm going to make it easier for you all to understand also. The team basically, we came up with a dummy company called Study Buddy, which is an online learning platform. And I'm going to show you sample slides of a possible pitch we would make for them, right? So as we go through, we'll look at each of those ones also to give an idea of how you can do this for your own business. Now, let's start with the very first slide, the cover slide. Now, your cover slide is an important slide because this is a slide that basically catches the audience's attention. So you need to make sure that your company name is visible, your logo is visible, and I would always recommend have one tagline, right? And the tagline should really capture what your startup is all about, right? Now, here I'm going to give you a few tips when you're designing your cover page, right? Make sure that your cover page is not cluttered, that is not overly confusing. Keep it very clean, keep it very focused on one objective. This is who we are, this is what we do, right? Second thing is make sure that your logo, your branding is very clear, right? Investors are going to be looking at multiple pictures a day sometimes, so you don't want them to confuse you or to mix you up. So make sure that your branding is very, very clear. And capture that your essence. What is your business really about? And I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that on the next slide, right? Now, the final point, and I just want to really push this with all of you because this is something Sri Lankan startups are really, really good at, right? Which is using unnecessary jargon, right? We are a cutting edge startup. We are the next generation of startup, whatever, right? We love using these buzzwords, thinking that these buzzwords are going to make our business seem more sophisticated or more advanced, right? But in reality, when somebody listens to a company and say, we are the cutting edge, and most likely, there are like 3 other companies before you who came and presented who all said we are cutting edge. So who's telling the truth and who's lying, right? So it's important to keep your statement very simple, right? This is who we are. This is what we do, right? Avoid jargon unless it is absolute fact. If you know that you're doing something that nobody else in the world has done, don't say that you're the latest or the most innovative, right? It sounds, unless you have data or like research to back what you're saying, don't say it, right? You can say it's the latest technology, but who knows, maybe while you're pitching and somebody just launched their business with newer technology, right? So keep it very simple, avoid jargon at all costs. Now, when you're creating your one-liner, there are 2 approaches that you can take, right? Approach number 1 is a what approach, and approach number 2 is a why approach. What approach basically answers the question, what are my customers buying from me, right? So I'll give an example here, right? So this is for Study Buddy, right? Which I said is a learning platform. So when a customer buys a Study Buddy account, they're buying a gamified online learning platform that helps groups of students study or students to study in groups, right? So the minute you hear that statement, you know what this is, right? This is what the business is. And this is a totally okay way of putting that one statement, right? You're a gamified online learning platform that facilitates group learning. Great. No doubt what the hell this business is about. Now, the second approach is the why approach. And this is a little bit more deeper, and it requires you to think a little bit more about why your business exists, right? why is your business doing what it's doing? And here, what you look at this, what you would see is, things like Study Buddy helps students succeed in their studies using gamified group learning experiences. Now, what's the difference? In the why approach, what we have said is, this is why we are building this product. We are building this product because we want to help students succeed. This time we're doing it with gamified learning experiences, right? Maybe it will work, maybe it won't work, right? But if it doesn't work, the investor still knows what we are trying to do, why we are doing this. So tomorrow I might come and say, listen, the gamified thing is not working. We are going to start building hubs where students can come and do group studies. Still, our purpose, what we are trying to do is achieved. How we are doing it is changing, right? So this is where you can show your love for the problem. Right? This shows that you know the real problem that you're solving, right? But the why approach is a little harder. You need to be a little bit more in tune. You need to ask yourself, why am I doing this business? Why am I building this brand? Why am I building this technology? It takes a little bit more effort, a little bit more time, right? But if you can tap into this, right? If you can figure this out, it's a really, really powerful statement that can win a lot of hearts, right? But if you can't, stick to the what approach, totally fine, right? So both of these approaches, the goal is, as an investor, I want you to know what or why what I'm going to talk to you about today is this, right? You want to win their interest, right? So this is the first thing. So this is your cover slide. So here is the cover slide of Study Buddy, right? So we're taking the why approach. So they said we are helping students succeed in their studies, right? Using gamified learning experiences. Great, right? Now, once you have got the attention of the investor, you go into your presentation. So the first thing that you talk about is your problem statement. What is it that you're trying to do? What problem are you trying to solve? So here, what I would always say is, when you're creating a problem statement slide, make sure that you're highlighting the problem that you're trying to solve. Try to make sure that you have both qualitative and quantitative measurements, right? Don't come and just say, you know what, we're trying to solve this because of this reason. Just try to come up with some kind of metrics, right? Because sometimes it sounds good to you, it feels really good, but it's just an opinion. If you have metrics, it means that there is something behind it, right? And if you can, and this is really, really powerful, if you can, try to calculate a financial metric. What that means is basically try to see, can I put a number to the cost of this problem, right? So when you're preparing your problem statement, one thing I would always say is look at it from the point of view of multiple stakeholders, right? Now, for Study Buddy, we can look at parents, we can look at teachers, we can look at students, we can look at schools, we can look at tuition classes. All of these stakeholders look at all their problems and try to see where those problems align with what you're trying to do, right? Define who your ideal audience is. Now, based on this, you can say, what students are my ideal audience, and these students are, this category of students are the best people to use my product. Quantify your pain points, right? I'll show you what that means. I'll show you in the next slide how to do what that means. But try to see what this is the cost of it, right? Or this is the lost potential or the lost revenue because of your not using your product, or because this problem exists, here is a loss, right? It doesn't always have to be money that is paid, right? If you take, for example, you're building a product that's going to save people time. So you can calculate a person, an engineer or a manager, let's say manager earning 100,000 rupees a month. What is their per hour cost, right? 100,000 divided by 160, right? Now that you have that number, you can say, okay, if your product saves them 1 hour, this is the financial value of that hour, right? So you don't need to be about how much they're paying or how much they're saving, but it can be even in terms of time saved or convenience created. And once you have all of this data, pick the most compelling ones, right? You might want to put all the problems, we're solving all these problems. We had to put everything on our presentation. Then only the investor will see that there are a lot of issues. But it's never going to work that way. So you want to put only the problems that really highlight or show the significance of what you're doing. And the minute you do that, you're going to get investors. You know what, this guy, not only is there a significant problem, but these guys know which problems to focus on and which problems to ignore. So that is what we want the investor to see, right? So select the most powerful, most important points into your presentation. So this is study buddy, right? So this, please don't quote us on any of these statistics. These are made up numbers, right? But you can see, that 33% of students have low motivation because they don't have buddies that they're studying with or friends. I mean, they don't do group studies. Their motivation is 33% lower, right? 64% improvement in marks, right? Great. Now, on top of that, we have put some, other, we've also said, before COVID, even before COVID, this problem existed, right? So we wanted to show that our business is not COVID dependent, right? Students have, extra classes, they have exam, they have tuition classes, they have group assignments, they have school sports that they're playing. So anyhow, time is an issue, right? And at the bottom, you can see, we have put a number, right? If a student has to go for extra classes to improve their marks, from a parent's point of view, that's going to cost them at least 36,000 rupees per month or whatever, right? So if we calculated the number and said, this is the number, this is how much you're saving a parent by using our product, right? So the goal is our product, whatever the product we build, has to be saving them, making our cost has to be less than 36,000 rupees. Then it makes financial sense for a parent to encourage their student to use our product rather than go for extra classes, right? So this is the goal here, right? So this is an example of how you can put your problem statement. Now, once you make your problem statement, the next question is, are there really people who want this problem solved? So this is where you need to showcase your market potential, right? So you want to show how big your market is and who is in that market. Now, when you're creating this slide, what you want to do is you want to be very specific about who your customers are, right? Don't just come and say, our product is for homeowners or for B2B businesses. Go narrower. B2B businesses that are having international customers, making at least 20 sales a month with a revenue of so much, right? Have very clear demographics, right? Be very clear, this is why, like inside our market also, we know who our niche is. And when you make this presentation down, when you create your market validation, what you're going to do, you'll have 3 groups, and I'll show that in the next slide. You don't want to say, what? There are 100 million people who have this problem. If we can at least get 1%, sure, that 1% is really small, but 1% of 100 million is a massive number. You might need $1 billion marketing budget to capture that market. Right? So you try to avoid using this percentage rule. Instead, try to filter down your on characteristics and come down to, okay, this is the ideal market for us, right? And that's the final point, avoid the percentage rule. So here's an example for study buddy, right? So we're saying, what, in Sri Lanka, we have about 2.5 million students at any time. That's about every student can use our product, right? Great. Every student, right? But can we go after every student on day one? No. So we're going to start with the A-levels and O-levels. Okay, A-levels and O-levels, that's about 1 million. Now we have, okay, our market is 1 million. Now can all of these A-level and O-level students, can all of them use our product from day one? No. We are going to start with the private schools in Sri Lanka and go after students doing their O-level, doing their A-levels. Right, which is 200,000 students. Now I have narrowed my market down, and I've shown there's a lot of potential, but we know who we are going to go after. Our marketing strategy, our business development, our product development is all going to be targeted at these 200,000 students. Once we have majority of them on our platform, then we will start looking at, all of our students. What do they need? What do they want? How do we create content for them? Right? How do we do marketing for them? Right? So what you do is you start small, and as you complete one group's, you capitalize on one group, you go to the next group, next group, next group. Eventually, you're capturing the whole market, right? And then your total addressable market changes. Then it becomes a region. Then it becomes the world, right? So that is what you want. An investor wants to see is, like, do these guys know who their customers are, and do they know, like, who really needs the product right now? Okay? So as you go lower, as you come into the bottom, the final share of market, that is where you can say, you know what, this is who we are starting with. Once these guys buy a product, we have a proof of that our product is good, then other markets will be easier to break into, right? So this is a really powerful slide, and shows that you know your business, right? Now the challenge you're going to have, especially if your product is Sri Lankan based, is we don't have statistics, right? We sometimes find it difficult to calculate the exact numbers, right? So you have to sometimes be a little creative. You have to go and do a little bit of research, try to find some, so for example, this 2.5 million number, what we did was we looked at the number of births, how many kids were born in 2000 and like now probably 2002 or 2004 who would become 18 years or 16, 17, 18 years now. Okay? So you have to kind of become a little creative, think a little outside the box sometimes to find these numbers, right? But just try to find something, because no one's like, it's not about being 100% accurate, but it's about showing that you know who your market is. Now, once you show, we have a problem, we know that there's people who need the problem solved. How do you solve the problem? This is where the proposed solution comes in. How does your product work? What are its key features? How are you going to make the impact? How is the product going to help people? Right? So when you're putting this slide together, be careful, right? Don't make your product complicated to a person listening. Keep it very simple. Make it as easy as possible for them to understand. Try to show, okay, we said we have a problem. Now here is how the solution solves this problem. Try to make that connection, right? Don't talk, you might have sometimes developed something, a really cool feature, a really amazing tech, but that is not directly connected to a problem that they're facing, right? It makes the product better, but it's not a problem. It's not a problem solver, right? So don't over highlight that. Connect the problem and your features. And focus on the impact, right? What is, like, if we implement this, how is it going to improve the customer's life, right? And most importantly, be very customer focused, right? Why do customers need these features? Why is it's going to help them, right? That is, at the end of the day, no matter how fancy you think your product is, if the customers don't want it, sorry.com, right? You're in hot water, right? And you might be in hot water after spending a lot of money of another person, right? So be very customer centric. So here you can do it like there are different ways of presenting your business solution, right? You can show a simple process. You can show, these are the features. Sorry. You can show features. If you have an MVP, if you have a proof of concept, if you have mock-ups, bring those in, right? Build confidence, right? Highlight the key features of your product mainly, right? Because what people want to see is, like, do these guys know what they're building, right? And what are, like, does it make sense? End of the day, that is what's going to matter to an investor. Is there a connection of what the customers want and what these guys are building? If there's a connection, is that connection big enough? Yes. Okay, there's a potential in this business. I'm interested, right? So here is where you want to highlight your business, how your business is solving the problems of the customer. Now, at this point, you are at the present. So the problem, the market, all of that is a past of everything. How you got to, this problem, you built the product, you built the business. This is now you move into the future. Where do you see the business going? How are you going to grow the business? The first thing you want to do there is show why you are special, right? Why are you going to survive in this market? Right? So what you want to do is you want to talk about what is it that your startup is doing that's going to be different and better than the rest of the competition. Right? So this can be your processes, it can be the partnerships that you have, it can be the network that you have, or the technology that you're building, right? The algorithms, right? It can be all of that. Of course, you can't say, we are using the latest technology and that to be a magic sauce, because unless you own the technology, somebody else can also use it and make the technology. That's the advantage is gone. That means somebody else uses the latest version, right? So it should be something that is difficult to duplicate, right? Ideally unduplicatable, but that's a bit hard, right? But it should be somewhat difficult to duplicate, and it should show how different you are from the competition, right? And finally, and this is something I want to kind of point out, because many startups fall into this trap. Don't ever say that the knowledge that you have about the industry or that your product is going to be cheaper is your competitive advantage. Because unless you're the only person in the world who's in this industry, you don't have domain knowledge advantage, right? Like if there is somebody who is like he has built something and nobody else knows how that thing works, then yes, right, you can say that I have domain knowledge. But thing is, if there's anybody else in your market, in your industry, you can't say domain knowledge, because even though you might be smart enough to have the first mover advantage, you might have built the product that no one else has thought about. But the minute you start becoming successful, somebody else with more experience will be like, this guy is doing it, I can do it too. And I can do it better because I have more experience, right? So domain knowledge is not a competitive advantage, and cheaper is absolutely not a competitive advantage, or better commissions or better prices, or that is not an advantage, because the minute you make your competitive advantage cheaper, meaning your customers are coming to you because you are the cheaper of the existing options, then the minute you become successful, somebody else comes, what, we are going to give it 5% cheaper, and your customers will move, right? If your customer is price sensitive, it's always a risk, right? So never be the cheap alternative, right? Try to find something unique, something that you're doing better than everyone else. And this is what will basically say, I should give the money to these guys and not to the next guy who's coming with the same idea, because these guys have something special, right? So your magic sauce. So this in Study Buddy, what we have done is we have kind of shown how we're bringing these two things together, and the marriage of these two things is our advantage, right? And that is something that somebody else might find it a little harder to do. But again, it's not going to give us a long-term advantage. It might just be a very short-term advantage, but enough time for us to develop a new advantage, right? Now, once you talk about why you're the best business or why you're going to be successful, you want to talk about how do you make money, right? So this is a time where you stop talking about technology and you start talking about your business, right? So here you want to show an investor that, okay, I know my revenue streams, and I know how I'm going to charge customers. And if you have any traction, that means you have customers who are already using this, paying on this model, can you talk about it? Can you put those numbers down, right? So there are different ways of charging customers, right? So it can be on a one-off billing, it could be recurring monthly maintenance or monthly fees, it could be a freemium option, SaaS model, PaaS model, whatever, right? You can pick whatever thing you want. You can even come up with your own thing, right? Which is totally fine. More power to you if you can do that. But when you're doing your revenue plan, what you want to keep in mind, number one, keep it simple. right? Don't give 100 different options, 3, 4 maximum, right? Have multiple revenue streams. I think COVID taught a lot of businesses the big mistake that we did was we had only one way of making money. And the minute COVID hit, those ways went off, we were out of money, right? So have multiple revenue streams. It can be advertising, it can be subscription, it could be partnering, it can be commissions, whatever. Right? Try to have multiple revenue streams. And it's always good to have firm numbers, which means don't give ranges, don't give percentages. Say I'm going to charge so much. You can change that number, right? No one is going to be like, oh, in the investment which you said this, we had a now you can't change. It has to be the same thing. No, that is totally fine. But again, it's about building confidence, right? So you can have firm numbers, but what you want an investor to see when they listen to your talking about a business plan and your revenue plan is these guys know how to make money, right? Like they know the numbers, they know they have a plan about this. It might be right, it might be wrong, but they're confident about what they have put together, right? So here's what from the study buddy model we are giving. We have a free model, we have a premium model, and we have a school model, right? So the premium model is where the parents are paying for the kids. School model is where we are doing bespoke white label models for the school itself, right? So parents say, what, I'm not going to pay for my kids anymore. Schools are still buying our product. Right? So the idea is, we are showing that we have multiple things. So we could have advertising in here, right? That's another revenue model. We could have commissions. We can sell this to partners overseas to sell it for us, right? You can have multiple revenue models. Again, the idea is not that you are going to implement all the revenue models on day one. What you want an investor to see is that you are smart enough to think about having different ways of making money on your business, right? That smartness is what will make the investor think, okay, you know what, these guys are money-minded. That is what you want to get them to take away from this pitch, right? So you want to have multiple revenue models and keep it very simple, keep it very easy to analyze, and don't overcomplicate it. Now, once you show how I'm going to make money, the question is, who are the people who are risking that money, or who are the risk factors for you making that money? So now you want to show your competitors and also highlight why you are better than your competitors. Now, when you're creating this slide, number one, do your research, right? One thing that I see so many startups coming in, we have no other competitors in our market. Bullshit, right? No one might be doing it the way you're doing it. They might not be using AI, or they might not be using blockchain, or they might not be your web or a mobile solution, whatever, right? But you probably have competition. A low-tech guy, competition, right? Because he's currently he can potentially steal your customer, right? So do your research, right? Understand that anyone who's providing a service that solves the problem that you're trying to solve is a competitor, right? So even if it means, like, for example, Uber, right, or PickMe. Now, PickMe might say, okay, we have only Uber and a few others as our competitors. But if there is some dude who's like coming in the morning, taking lunch orders, going, cooking, and coming in the afternoon and giving it to you, competition, right? No, not high tech, super low tech, but competition, right? If that's an industry, it is, right? So it's important to understand who your competition is. And there has to be a significant difference between what you're doing and what the competition is doing, right? If your competition is doing, if both are doing the same thing, it's very hard to get investment, because the investor will say, okay, I'll rather give the money to the successful established business than go on this journey with you, right? And also, very importantly, talk about what makes you special and why this is not something that others can duplicate. So there are two ways that you can do this. So approach number one is you can have a simple quadrant model. Take two metrics that customers care about and show where you are and where the others are. And you can talk about why you can stay in this place and why others can't come into this space. The second option is to do a feature comparison. So here you can basically show, okay, these are all our players. These are the things that they can do, Again, guys, these are dummy data. Please don't cite these. We have just put some placeholders. Even though the startups here exist, we are not actual competitors with them. We are not building anything like this. So this is a way to show why we are different from the others. Now, once you talk about why you're different, this is how we're going to make money. This is why people are going to give us money, because we are different in this way. The next question is, how are you going to grow your business, right? Or what is your traction? So traction basically means who have already committed with you to go on this journey, right? How many customers have you already onboarded? How many customers are already using your product? Growth plans is, we still don't have customers, but this is how we expect the customers to come, right? So on this slide, what you want to do is don't talk about the next 5 years, right? Just limit it to the next 6 to 18 months, right? Have concrete metrics, measurements. We want to have 1,000 users by the end of 3 months. We have to have 5,000 users by the end of 6 months. You want to have some concrete numbers, right? And remember, it's better to have small steps than have many small steps than have one big step, right? You can say we want to get 100 users by the end of this month, 200 by the end of next month, 500 by the end of the quarter, right? Instead of saying, by the end of the first year, we want to have 1 million users on our platform. The smaller numbers are more achievable, and as you achieve them, you're going to get feedback, you're going to learn, you're going to change these numbers, you might do things differently, right? So it's important that you figure out what those numbers are, right? And have achievable numbers, right? So here's, for growth plan for Study Buddy, 3 months we're going to have prototypes, 6 months we're going to do this, 7 months we're doing that, 12 months we're doing this, something, right? So it's just it's a concept, right? So we don't have any traction, we don't have users using our product, but here's our model, right? Now we're coming towards the end of the presentation. All of these are great. You're going to make money. The business is awesome. The future looks great. Now, who the hell is going to make this happen? Right? So this is the team. Now, when you're putting your team slide together, a few things you want to keep in mind. It's not your team CV, right? Sports captain, did swimming, did basketball. If it's not relevant to the job, don't talk about it, right? Focus on what the business needs, right? And only include the core team. It's really surprising that so many people want to, we have the QA team, we want to talk, we want to mention the QA team members, we want to mention the developers, because all these guys are, we have given them shares so that they'll work for cheaper, right? That's all fine, right? That's more power to you for doing that. But from an investor's point of view, what they want to know is, who am I going to be dealing with? Who is going to answer my calls? Who is going to be at the board meetings? Who is going to be discussing the future plans of the business? So to do that, we want to talk about who's our core team. And be very clear on the role each person plays. Now, you might have started a business, you would have brought your best friend into the business, been friends since kindergarten, since Montessori, you've been together, good guy, fun guy, all these things. But the dude has nothing. He doesn't do anything for the business, right? He's just your buddy. Now, that is a big risk, right? This guy is not bringing anything to the table, right? So as a founder, you need to be very smart to separate your personal life from your business life, right? And if your business partner, his co-founder, is not bringing anything to the table, namata tyaganne epa, right? So you have to let the guy go. It's a hard conversation, but it has to be done, because now you're taking another person's money, right? You can't be paying a director who's not doing anything, or you can't be paying a co-founder who's not doing anything, or who's not bringing value to the business, right? So you have to be able to be very, very clear on what everybody does and why they are good at doing it, right? So very simply here, right? Like here we are showing 3 team members. What is their experience, why they are good at what they are doing, and what areas of the business are they looking after, right? The minute you show these people, okay, if it's a finance problem, I know how to talk to Joe, right? If it is a problem with the content of the platform, we need to get updates from Jane, right? It's a technology problem, we'll talk to John, right? So the investors know, everyone knows what line they are on, right? And that is really, really important for you to create trust and confidence in your team, with the investor. Now, finally, we come to the most important slide. How much money do you want and what are you going to do with it, right? So on this slide, what you want to show is, number one is what you need and how you're going to use it. Try to quantify the amount you're taking with goals, right? If you say, we are raising $250,000 in order to increase our customer base from 100,000 users to 500,000 users. If you can do that, it's really good, right? Because it shows a very focused mind and a target-oriented approach to business, right? And just as a small point, when you're talking to an investor and you know this investor can only invest a maximum of $500,000, right? Don't talk to them about stuff that you're going to do with $1 million or $2 million. Their money, what is it going to go for, right? This is good, because what happens then is, if you guys, the investor says, I can give you, $100,000, but you need $1 million. Now he knows until you raise the remaining $900,000, your 100,000 is useless, right? So talk about what you're going to do with his money, and wherever possible, try to spend the money on what is going to take your product to market sooner, right? Don't spend it on parties, bonuses, stuff, unless it's going to help you improve the top line or reduce the bottom line, which means are you going to get more sales or are you going to cut cost, right? Because that, at the end of the day, investors want their money to be working for them, and it's not a gift for you for being smart enough to have started up your own startup, right? So again, it can be very simple. This can be very simple. You say, I'm asking for so much money, so much is going to this part of the business, so much is going to this part of the business, so much is going to this part of the business, and so much is going to this part of the business, right? It's good to have some clarity, and you don't need to put all the details here. But if an investor asks, why do you want $2 million for administration? You need to be able to answer that question, right? Also, you can put down, okay, what have we done so far in order to say, this is where we are. And with your 10 million, obviously, we are going to make our growth plan possible, right? So this is probably the last slide on your presentation, which is your ask, right? And with that, you close off your presentation by inviting your investors to come on some transformational journey, right? So this is a final closing slide that you can have. Now, if you notice, when you went through all the content of this presentation, your startup basically grew from an idea into a successful business that is now raising money or going to raise money. So this is the evolution. That's what you want to start. But in your pitch deck, what you want to show is this evolution. From I had an idea to I have made this idea into a profitable business, right? If you can do this, congratulations, you are going to be in a very strong place in order to build your business by raising funds, most importantly, right? So this is what you put into your presentation. So I'm just going to take another 5 minutes and just talk about what do you need to do in order to be ready to go and pitch. Right now, you might have found an investor, you have your pitch deck, but that doesn't mean that you can just go and present, right? You have to prepare. So the first thing I would say is, don't worry about making pretty slides, right? Your slides don't need to be pretty, but they need to be very, very clear. If you're pretty, better. But sometimes what happens is we think if it looks nice, that's all that matters. It looks nice, they will be happy. But investors are putting down big money, right? So they want to make sure that the content is also very, very clear and easy to understand. Wherever possible, try to visualize your content, right? That means avoid having big paragraphs, long sentences. Anywhere it's possible to put a diagram or an infographic type of artwork that will explain the content in a very simple and easy way do that, right? Because remember, you will be given a very limited amount of time to make that initial presentation. So you want the audience, to the investors or the judges, to be able to quickly understand what your business is all about. That can't be done if they're reading big paragraphs on your slide. Number three, you don't understand your timing, right? So what I put here is your typical presentation for most pitching competitions. You normally are given about a 5-minute presentation time and then about 10 to 15 minutes of Q&A. Now, your goal in your 5 minutes of presenting time is not to answer all the questions. It's to make sure that your business idea is clear, the potential of your business is clear, and that you are able to show that there is a promising business behind this idea. The 10-minute Q&A is where the judges or the investors will ask you questions. They will dive into your business model, dive into your idea, and try to clarify anything that they see as gray areas, right? Now, how do you use this 5 minutes? Right? Now, that's a tough question. One way of thinking about this is, think about your entire presentation as a bag of rice. And now in this bag, you have 5 minutes means you have about 600 grains of rice if one grain is equal to 1 word, right? Because on average, we speak at about 120 words, 100 to 120 words per minute. So if you take 600 words, now the question is, how do I put these 600 words into each slide? Many of us, most of us, the mistake that we make is we spend a lot of time talking about the problem, the solution, the technology, and because this is what we think we are insecure about our idea, so we try to over-explain. But what happens then is 4 minutes of your presentation is spent talking about the problem. You have only 1 minute to talk about how are we going to make money, how are we going to get customers, how much money are we going to make, and how am I going to use your money. The most important part of your pitch is the future of your business. That is, you don't have time for that. So what you want to do is you want to try and distribute the minutes, the words that you have in a smart way across all your 10 slides or whatever number of slides that you have. One technique that has been been used very successfully by startups is to do a script. So here's one model that we propose. Is you write down every slide, what are you talking about? And you write word for word, what are you planning on saying? Now, when you write your you write your script, you don't need to stick to this 100%. But when you write your script, what's going to happen is you can count the number of words on each slide. So if you have 600 words total, 10 slides, you know that each slide, you cannot spend more than 60 words. Now, when you write your script, you see, okay, some slides you are spending only 5 words, some slides you're spending 20 words, some slides you're spending 40 words. You take the balance and reallocate it in the other sections. At the end of it, your entire script should not be more than 600 words. If you can do this, you are in a very good advantage, because what's going to happen is you're going to be within time. What you don't want is, especially if you're in a competition, the organizers to switch off your mic at an important point of your presentation. And that's going to lose you valuable credit. Right? You're going to lose valuable points, because now the investors or the judges haven't heard the important part of your presentation. Also, today we are in a world of digital. We have to prepare for online. So make sure that if you're doing an online presentation, which I believe in this particular program, you will be doing an online presentation, make sure that you find a place with good lighting, right? You want the investors to be able to see your face, right? Find a place without a lot of background distractions. You don't want your dog running across the background. You don't want your kids coming and jumping on the bed, right? So try to find a place with as little distraction as possible. Speak clearly and with passion, right? You have to practice this, right? You have to do rehearsals. Make sure that you're coming off. Don't waste time with unnecessary words. Don't waste it. Don't try to think of your script at that moment. Speak clearly. Speak with passion. Show that you love your startup, right? If you can, and a lot of our laptops, our microphones are shit, right? So find a good microphone. If it's a clip-on or a standing microphone, better. But find a laptop or find something with a good microphone, because 90% of your presentation is going to be what you are saying. So make sure that you're audible. And finally, speak to the camera. I'm sure you will notice, when somebody's reading from the script, I'm looking at the content of my slide and I'm talking. You can see that I'm not making you don't feel like I'm talking to you. But the minute I look at the camera and I'm speaking to the camera, it feels like you get a little bit more confidence about the presenter, right? Final thing, my last point, last tip for you all. These 3 letters can make the difference between you being a good presentation, you making a good presentation, and you making a bad presentation. PPR. What does that mean? The first P stands for preparation, right? You need to prepare. You have to make your slides. You put time. Don't make your slides a day before the event. It will take at least 1.5 weeks to do a really good pitch presentation. Second P is practice. Practice your presentation over and over again with the script. Make sure that you know your script inside out, right? Deliver it over and over again. Be 100% confident that your script is internalized, that you know it by heart. And finally, the R, which is rehearse. What does rehearse mean? That means you leave the script aside and you practice your presentation from slide 1 to slide 10 over and over again. You will realize every time you practice without the script, few things will change, a few words, a few sentences. But what that does, it creates confidence in you. The more you know about your presentation, the more times you have rehearsed, even if you forget a line, even if you mix up something, you are able to manage to continue delivering your presentation without any problems, right? So PPR, this is what makes a difference between a great presenter and a good and an okay presenter, right? So thank you very much, guys. I want to wish you all the very best. So to quickly sum up what we've covered today, remember, when you're creating a presentation, create it thinking from an investor's point of view. They want to invest in the least risky, high potential startups. Make sure that it's not about you, it's about the investor, right? Don't let your ego get the better of you, right? Show that you have a plan for success. Show that you are a smart business person, right? Create curiosity, build excitement, build the enthusiasm, right? We have a lot of things that we can do. We are going to do this. Build it up slowly, right? Know your numbers. Don't come and say, I have to get back to you. We don't know what this will cost. We don't know how much to charge the person. Know your numbers. Even if they're estimates, know them, right? And make sure that you plan everything. This could be the presentation that makes or breaks your business. So don't risk being very casual about it, right? So thank you very much for being a wonderful audience. I hope all of your ideas come to reality. My contact numbers on screen. If you all want to just note it down, I'm always happy to help Sri Lankan startups. If you all want any input, any advice, any support, just reach out and I'll be happy to help you out with that. So with that, I end my presentation. I'll give the controls back to Udita and we can take the Q&A from there. Udita, back to you.
Yeah, thank you for that amazing presentation and a lot of insight into how to pitch and what kind of things to do and not to do. Is there any questions? Anyone having any questions, you can ask via the chat, or you can unmute yourself and you can ask questions. Just give it 1 or 2 minutes. And I will be sharing this recording as well via our official YouTube channel. I will be sharing also in our groups and other networks as well. So you can also, if you are not able to attend today due to some reason, we can share that also. And you can prepare yourself for the presentations, final presentations. So we'll be having 2 rounds of presentations, semi-finals and finals. So you can prepare with that as well. If you are having any questions, you can ask. Okay, sorry, last one question. So there were some startups, actually non-IT like startups, entrepreneurs also have come up with some ideas. So what kind of thoughts, or what kind of a pitch that they can have, because there are like other entrepreneurs like non-directly into IT startups, but they are doing their on their own, and they want to reach different markets, Sri Lanka and internationally. So there are a couple of the startup entries from that side of things. So what kind of the input you like to give for those kind of startups?
Yeah, good question. I think this presentation is a little aligned to the IT sector. But to be honest, I would say 90% of the things that we have in our presentation are the same, right? Even if you're building a food startup or you're building a service startup or something, it doesn't matter. There has to be a problem. There have to be people who want that problem solved. You should have a solution that solves that problem effectively. You have to have a plan for growing your business. You need to have a way to make money. You need to have a team, and you need to know how you're going to use the money, right? So in reality, there's very little difference. Maybe where you might talk about, if it's a food-based startup, you might talk about what are the advantages of your food product, right? Maybe the ingredients, what are the other attractions. You might, if it's a service-based startup, you might talk about ecosystems and communities that you're trying to create. So there might be slight modifications, but I would say probably 90 to 95% of what we covered today will need to be covered, right? You might just drop a few things about the tech side, but everything else is there. I hope that answers the question, Udita.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that helps. Any other questions from the participants? Yeah. So that there was like another kind of a set of startup entries that we had, like again to mention really more advanced side of things, like the things like metaverse kind of ideas. So what kind of those kind of these are new things. So how those can be realistic in terms of making money in the Sri Lankan market and things like that. What do your suggestions on that?
Yeah. So generally, there are two types of businesses, right? So businesses that are trying to solve a problem, and then there are businesses that are trying to take advantage of an opportunity. Now, metaverse type of thing and an advantage type of thing, right? You're seeing an opportunity that is coming up, and you're trying to take advantage of that. The challenge in that kind of presentation or that kind of investment pitch is you need to find the right kind of investor, right? Because that investor has to be willing to play the long game. They want to be able to number one, see the vision and be willing to say, okay, I'm not going to get money on this anytime soon, right? But end of the day, I would say, even if you're doing something like metaverse or NFT or something like that, right, which are emerging technologies, decentralized finance, blockchain, DAOs, all of these things. End of the day, it has to fit into some kind of, at some point, it has to be revenue generated, right? So you have to be at some, whether through advertising, whether through subscription, there has to be some way to make money, right? So as a founder, you need to still talk about how am I going to make money. The only thing is you say, the money making will happen many years later, right? Like for example, Facebook, right? Like when Facebook started, I doubt anyone really thought about Facebook the way it is today, right? So I'm sure Mark Zuckerberg wasn't like we are going to be advertising with these guys hardcore by learning their profiles and learning their behavior. Like, people are on our website, we'll put a few ads here and then a corner. So the trick is you have to be able to sell, you have to sell the person on the tree. And then but still, I would say it's two things, right? Number one is you should have a vision that's profitable. And second is you have to be able to find an investor who really sees that vision. I know there are investors who will invest in startups that are very, futuristic because they have a vision, right? Like they will fund you now, and I think startup accelerators or incubators, like for the ones that are run by John Kears and by Mars and them, and Brandix and Mars and things, is a good example of that. They're looking at, okay, startup comes and says, no, we're doing something really cool, we're doing something really fancy. It's a long shot, but then the company sees, okay, you know what, if these guys get it right, that can benefit our business. And therefore we are willing to take the risk and invest in it, because those are high risk investments. Right. So it's as a founder, when you're pitching that, you want to show that at some place your technology will make money either through partnership or through proper sales.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that answer. So we got a lot of information for our the competition and our participants. So any participant not able to join, they will share the recording, and it will be really helpful for their presentation and their pitching rounds that you are planning to have 2 rounds to make it final. So I would like to thank again Mafaz to join and take our request and our session to support our startups and our startup hub. And also we are looking forward to having you again in an event like this in coming months and coming years for our startup hub, and like share your knowledge and experience with us. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, and see you again at the same webinar like this.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay.